Hey everyone, it's the Tuesday afternoon edition of Weather for Weather Geeks. What an evening we had last evening across parts of Ohio and into western Pennsylvania. And if you followed my coverage last night, you know this was a little unexpected. The storms that formed up around southeastern Michigan, over Lake Erie, around Cleveland, were theoretically supposed to kind of stay up in that zone. But through a combination of factors, including what we call the Coriolis force, which it has to do with the Earth, which spins, tends to steer things to the right, that Coriolis force. And that was one of the reasons why some of these storms did start to a south and eastward bend and ended up in the WFMJ viewing area. Now, that said, we got off relatively lucky last night. We had no severe thunderstorm warnings. We had no tornado warnings. And we have not seen a tremendous amount of problems with flooding. Maybe some minor flooding here and there, still some flood watches out until tonight for a couple of our counties. But considering how kind of ugly this was to the west, with severe flooding, Akron up to Cleveland, and yes, they had some hail reports here. I've got on this Google map, everywhere you see a green H is where confirmed reports of large hail occurred. Now, we did have some pea-size hail in a few spots, but large hail, hail that's a problem, was not much of a factor here, unlike Akron, Medina, Strongsville up closer to Cleveland. Few reports of wind damage over in western Pennsylvania, particularly southern Lawrence County into Beaver County, all of this kind of between Newcastle and Pittsburgh, but no severe weather reports, generally speaking, in the WFMJ viewing area. A couple of reports of tornadoes just south of Detroit. So, last night turned wild. What's going to happen over the next few days? That's what we're here to talk about on this Tuesday afternoon. Boy, is it warm out this afternoon, just as we expected. Here in the 2 o'clock hour, an 83-degree reading at the Youngstown Warren Airport. It's pushing 87, 88 in parts of central Ohio, and then you run into the cooler air off to the west. Now, this afternoon, we do have some fair weather cumulus clouds around. They're not getting very high in the sky just yet, and my suspicion is that we are going to stay dry in most spots through the end of the daylight hours today. Starting after sunset this evening, our chances for rain increase, and I'll show you the breakdown of that in just a second. All right, what do we have going on to the west here? Well, this kind of almost a rectangular area is an area that the Storm Prediction Center was possibly outlining for a possible severe thunderstorm watch earlier on. However, when they put this out, they said watch unlikely, chance of issuance only 20%. So that covers southeastern Michigan, western Ohio into Indiana. There are some thunderstorms starting to pop out here, but severe weather at this point does not look tremendously likely. In fact, there is not an enhanced risk. There's not an enhanced risk of severe weather anywhere across our region today. The green area here is just the general thunderstorm area. In other words, the chance for severe weather is pretty low. Not something that can be ruled out, but it is, yes, pretty low. So nonetheless, we'll be keeping an eye on what happens to the west. Also of note today, the temperature breakdown. Check this out. It's much cooler out across the Midwest. Here's our cold front right in through here, and west of that front, no higher than the upper 40s and lower 50s in the Midwest this afternoon. And this is the year that slowly but surely is coming our way, and we do expect a pretty big cool down here in a couple of days. But as it stands now, we're firmly in the warm sector. Lots and lots of warm air across the Ohio Valley this afternoon. All right, so that's what's going on mid-afternoon today. Let me take off all the current information, and then we'll talk about the future. I'm going to bring up the latest high-resolution rapid refresh model. As we saw yesterday, these models are far from perfect. The models did not pick up on the thunderstorm activity that rolled through last night very well at all. So, when we show you these computer models, we always say, hey, take them with a grain of salt. This is not the answer key. This is just a guide as to what may happen. Some models are better than others. This particular model, called the High Resolution Rapid Refresh, tends to do pretty well in the short range. There are exceptions, though. Last night was certainly an exception. Anyway, I'm showing you the future radar products here starting at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Probably still nothing going on at that point. 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 7 o'clock. Activity starting to fill in probably western Ohio, central Ohio. Scattered, real hit-or-miss shower and thunderstorm activity. But, I think odds really do favor us staying dry across the WFMJ viewing area through the daylight hours. Maybe at the very last minute before the sun sets at around 8:30, we might see a stray shower or a thunderstorm. But odds favor, if we're going to get wet over the next 12 hours or so, it's going to be tonight. And even that may not be a whole lot. The model's not showing much here overnight tonight. Tomorrow could be a bit of a different story. Let me switch sources on you real quickly here. The Storm Prediction Center does have an enhanced risk of severe weather across the southern half of Ohio and sneaking up into the northeastern half of the state as well. The ingredients coming together tomorrow, the atmosphere will be unstable, and our cold front will be getting set to make its approach. So we've got a trigger in that cold front, something to lift the air, and then once the air starts lifting, the atmosphere will be unstable enough to support the air to continue to lift. So the recipe is there for possibly some nastier storms again during the day tomorrow. So let me bring up the NAM model, and this will take us out through tomorrow evening. Future radar product here, mid-afternoon tomorrow, spotty shower and thunderstorm activity at about 2 p.m. So roll this forward to 3 p.m. and then 4 p.m. Hit or miss storms around. Any of these storms could be, on the strong side. 5 p.m. tomorrow, still the threat. Now, these storms are not likely to be in exactly where you see them on the screen here, but we're looking for just the general ideas here. And the general idea is, yes, tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, we do have the risk for some thunderstorms, and some of them could turn pretty strong. This encompasses a lot of Indiana, Kentucky, into parts of Ohio as well. So tomorrow afternoon and evening, far from a washout, but we're going to have to keep an eye to the sky. You're going to want to have our WFMJ app, which will let you play around with the interactive radar, show you what's going on. You'll want to check out our social media posts because we'll be keeping you updated throughout the course of the afternoon and evening, and if we need to break into programming because of the threat for severe weather tomorrow afternoon and evening, we will do so. Generally speaking, our philosophy, like most television stations, is for severe thunderstorm warnings, we'll cut in during commercial breaks. For tornado warnings, that's when we jump in on top of programming, whether it be The Voice or whatever else happens to be airing. We will, if there's tornado warnings in our viewing area, we will, kind of cut into those. And some people get upset by that, but, we could be saving lives by being on the air and warning people about severe weather. So that's the general philosophy, severe thunderstorm warnings. We go on TV during commercial breaks, tornado warnings, we can cut into programming. All right. So tomorrow afternoon and evening could be a little bumpy. Heading towards Thursday, this is when our front will be crossing the area in the morning. Low pressure almost right overhead, cold front dangling down like that. And this is not severe weather, but just some rain, it looks like, for Thursday morning and midday, perhaps into a good part of the afternoon. Here's the end of the day Thursday. Steadiest of the rain trying to push east in the late afternoon and evening hours on Thursday. Behind the front, yeah, it's going to be chilly. And with all of this chilly air, aloft, unstable atmosphere, we do expect some showers to pop back up again on Friday, particularly in the afternoon. So that's Friday and Friday night. Could even, in any heavier shower, I suppose there could be a little pea-sized hail somewhere on Friday because, again, the atmosphere pretty cold. Heading into Saturday, first half of the weekend, a lot like Friday, temperatures well below average, pop-up showers. I think the better half of the weekend at this point is Sunday, although Sunday's still kind of cool. Maybe there's a sprinkle or a shower, but I think the coverage is less on Sunday than Saturday. It's only Tuesday, so there's plenty of time to fine-tune that forecast. All right, 16-day temperature trend real quickly here. This is just based on the GFS model. Only one, set of models that we look at. There's plenty of other information out there, but the bottom line here is the trends are shown warm and then cooler for the end of the week and into the weekend. And then the trend for next week, starting early in the week and continuing through the end of the week, is more typical of the season. In fact, above average, it looks like, for at least a few days next week. So we've got a big cool down coming at the end of this week into the weekend, but it's not going to last real long. I think next week will be pretty nice overall in the grand scheme of things. All right, that's weather for Weather Geeks on this Tuesday. I'll have an updated forecast tonight on 21 News at 6 and 11. I will see you then.